want to thank the chairman for calling really an urgent hearing. I want to thank our witness. I think we're going to have a really good conversation. I want to thank you also for your flexibility. I know we bounced around with the time. It just means a lot. As you know, we're pulled in a million different directions, and your courtesy there is extraordinary. This is an issue, as we talked a moment ago privately, that is of great importance to me, and where there has been, in my years on the Foreign Relations Committee, extraordinary bipartisan connectivity. We know that while we cannot disregard the malign activities of China, Russia, and other foreign actors across the continent, we cannot only look at Africa through the lens of the great power competition. It's important that we as America affirm our larger values, because if we ignore Africa's connection to our future, to America's future security, to America's future prosperity on its own merits, then we do so at our own peril. The continent of Africa is an indispensable set of opportunities and interconnections that are vital. And one great example of that is that Africa has this extraordinary future ahead of us. As a growing population of youth, and by 2050, 1 in 4 people on the planet Earth will be from Africa, and because of the youth bulge there, 1 in every 3 working-age human beings on the planet Earth by 2050 will be from Africa. I have found great partnership over the years with Secretary Rubio when he was a senator. He has been someone who has understood the urgencies of the continent, especially through the context of that great power struggle. He looked and has said many times that people are the continent's most important advantage, and the U.S. policy towards Africa, according to our now Secretary of State, is to double down on our investments in our partnerships with African people. Not only will this approach directly benefit the United States, but it will undercut the PRC's influence by ensuring that the United States is the trusted partner of choice. You see, our values are our advantage. I've talked to so many African leaders, as I know my more eminent colleague Chris Coons has, and many of them tell us they don't want to deal with China. They prefer us, but China is showing up in places we are not, making connections and partnerships that we are not. If we are going to compete there, let's compete with our American values. They will win every single time. So, Ambassador, I share your interests in expanding trade with Africa countries and increasing U.S. commercial investments and connections between America and African businesses. When I go to Africa, I meet with Americans doing business there all of the time, and it's extraordinary. The upside, it is an emerging market that's going to, again, with that population growth, be vital for American-made products, American technology, American innovation. This is a place where America should be leaning in to thrive. However, we need a coherent strategy in order to take advantage of this extraordinary opportunities. And I'm concerned that the many Trump executive orders on tariffs and subsequent reversals suggest that no strategy really exists. And more importantly, the idea that the United States should not focus on commercial deal-making while ignoring stabilization issues, humanitarian need issues, and increasing good governance is really short-sighted and undermines the potential upside for Americans and American businesses. Right now, China has eclipsed Russia as the largest weapons exporter to sub-Saharan Africa. Chinese drones, armed vehicles, firearms have flooded conflict zones from Sudan to West Africa and the Sahel. China's largest weapons producer, Norinco, has established regional offices in Nigeria, South Africa, Angola, and Senegal. China's security ties to Africa transcend more than just weaponry, as direct training and tactical information sharing increases. African governments, particularly those dealing with the threat of violent extremism, say they want to deepen their security and information sharing apparatus with the United States. So what is our strategy here? Commercial diplomacy is vital, but alone it will not get us to where we need to be. Further, should the rumors about potential dismantling of U.S. commands like AFRICOM occur, this will directly undermine our interests and cede further space to China in Africa. So to say that I'm concerned about the Trump administration's policies to date is a vast understatement. My private conversations, again, with our Secretary of State make me understand that he knows the importance and urgency of the work that I am discussing. But since January, the Trump administration has undercut our partnerships across the continent and ceded ground to China at every turn, from cutting off life-saving humanitarian aid programs without warning to canceling global health programs that prevent the spread of infectious diseases, from terminating programs that feed the hungry and prevent conflict to canceling programs that lift people up out of poverty and keep children in school and prevent the recruitment into extremist groups, all things that inure to the benefit of our business interests as well as the moral values that guide our country. And despite claiming to want to increase economic opportunities, the administration has terminated the bipartisan programs that build democratic reliance and a healthy workforce, foster good governments, and level the playing field for American businesses trying to find new local partners and access new markets. One way to ensure deeper ties with African communities was through the President's Advisory Council on the African Diaspora Engagement. I see my nods from my colleague here that we know that that actual work, that affirming good faith ties for business, it has so assisted the United States in identifying public and private sector exchanges and investments across Africa. It deepens our dialogue, our connection, and our shared values. But here are some examples of bipartisan programs that have either been terminated or paused. PEPFAR, HIV prevention programs that would help eliminate HIV and AIDS as a public health threat by 2030 if continued, while China Aid takes over early childhood development and global health programs that the United States used to fund. They're filling our void. The MCC compacts that build critical infrastructure in Africa and partner countries. This is an extraordinary bipartisan work that we've done. The chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee was one of its big champions. Now, unfortunately, China expands its Belt and Road Initiative with surveillance, wired buildings, and infrastructure, debt-level leveraged aid, and values that are antithetical to a real democratic partnership. Democracy and good governance programs are vital. While China increases CCP trainings and engagement with Africa policymakers, we are seeing democratic slippage, which ultimately threatens our way of life as well as our ability to establish a world-based rules order. People-to-people educational and cultural exchanges, such as the Young African Leadership Initiative. This we know, how many African leaders we meet when we're abroad that say, I was educated in the United States, and the value of that alone in advantaging the United States. But unfortunately now we see China increasing their educational, commercial, and diplomatic exchange programs. Life-saving humanitarian aid programs like in Sudan that I witnessed with my own eyes, where a child is dying every 2 hours due to malnutrition. We are stepping out. China is stepping in to increase its humanitarian response. The United States right now is taking a sledgehammer not only to these vital programs that have been supported in a bipartisan way that have unified our Foreign Relations Committee, it is also taking a sledgehammer to U.S. credibility. This is something that is vital. In business, reputation is everything. The Trump administration has dealt a double blow now, ceding moral ground and losing strategic influence on top of undermining America's values and how they are embraced by by African nations. We've created a vacuum that our competitors are showing they're willing to fill. In fact, they're racing to fill it. Not just China, but Russia, Iran, and others are stepping up on their Africa engagement and investments. These regimes do not bring hope. They bring surveillance, coercion, instability, and greater threats to the United States' security, safety, and prosperity. The United States strategy across Africa has never been perfect. We can do better. We can do better than we did in the past, better than what Trump is doing now, better than what previous administrations have done. Certainly, though, with China and their plans and their investments, we need to step up. I look forward to hearing from your testimony today, and again, I'm grateful that we're holding this hearing.